Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Well, once a month, the awesome folks over on Patreon who support the Currently Rockhounding project submit ideas to be made into videos, and this month's submission comes from Cliff Miller. Cliff Miller writes, "How do you approach polishing now that you've filled out so much more gear in the shop? Do you find that with more overlap, you're using some items less or not at all? Or do they all get circulation for specific tasks? And maybe calling out what those tasks are, or what makes a tool particularly suited for different material?" Well, Cliff, I can answer that. I pretty much have 5 machines out here in the shop, minus the saw. 5 kind of polishing, buffing machines. And we can go through those now, and I'll tell you what I like, don't like, and we'll get right into it. We'll get right into it. This right here is the 8-inch high-tech diamond flat lap. This was my first real lapidary machine, and I have used it extensively. It has been a very nice machine to have. The basics of it, well, it runs these discs, and you can grind flat things, kind of like this here. And I do think it's important to talk about what I want to do. What I like to do in the world of lapidary is polish big things. I want to polish bigger and bigger things. So although this has been an excellent machine, it's probably the one that sees the smallest amount of use now, simply because of the direction I want to take my lapidary. And I'll give you a good example of it. So we can grab something here. You want to do something little? You can polish things like this on there just fine. As things get bigger, kind of like this guy right here, they get more and more difficult. Yeah, it fits, but it's not ideal. And it does take quite a long time. And well, if you want to polish something really big like this, you're out of luck on the 8-inch lap. But because of the design of it with the center nut, you can only go so big. You can only go so big. And I will keep it. I have all the different discs. But the other downside for it, for me, has been water. Now, out here in the shop currently, as I sit here and talk to you, it's 35 degrees. And well, yeah, you can deal with the 35-degree water on some hands for a little bit, but eventually you're gonna get cold and it's not gonna be fun. Let's look at the next machine that I got after this, which does suit the style of lapidary that I'm trying to pursue and I really enjoy. This here is the Richardson's Ranch high-speed sander, and well, it's a beast of a machine and I love it. When it comes to polishing big things like this, or even medium thunder eggs, stuff like this, this is perfect. We have a large workspace here. It has some upsides for me personally. It's ran dry. You put on a respirator, you hook up the shop vac, and you're good. I can use gloves with it, and I can come out here in the wintertime and I can polish up some rocks. So for me, it checks off the size, and well, I can use it all winter and I can use it all summer. So big benefit. Now, it does have a couple of downsides, and the downsides for this machine is that when you're doing things dry without water, well, things can get warm. So you do have to manage heat, and little tiny rocks like this do not do well on things like this. And that's when this thing really shines. It's just purpose built. Big things like this fit on there just fine, and I like the speed of it. The main downside to the Richardson sander is noise, potential cleanliness issues, and really you have to have a buffer, because we take this thing up to 800 grit, and that is beautiful. It's a beautiful finish on it, but you gotta buff it out with white optical grade cerium oxide. So it's kind of like it's a partial machine, in my mind. Yeah, it's one unit, but you gotta have that slow buffing wheel. Here is my buffing wheel that I designed and built. It turns incredibly slow, and you put your white cerium oxide on there. You hold your rock up to the wheel, and it gets a beautiful, beautiful mirror finish, and I love it. Now, I do have plans up on the website for this for free. You can go download them and make one yourself. All I ask is that you send me a photo of your finished project so that I can put it up there. There's a whole bunch of other people's wheels that they've designed and put up, or shared with me to put up there, and it's fabulous. That said, I understand that not everybody's going to be building a thing like this, and well, Richardson's does sell their own kind of buffing wheel setup, which from what I've heard, it is excellent. So you can always go check them out over there. Downside, everything's got a downside. There's no such thing as the perfect machine. Downside with this is, well, it can be a little messy, and you really got to clean your rocks quickly to get that cerium oxide off. If you just let them dry, that's going to be on there, and you're not going to be having a fun time getting this ultra fine buffing compound out of it, like the little nooks and crannies and little cracks of your rock. Pretty much all winter, I'm relegated to using just the Richardson sander because of how cold it gets out here. I do have 2 other water-based machines, which we'll look at next, and I do look at them as kind of a summertime activity for me until I can get into a better shop space someday. Let's look at the arbor that I built. This here is my NS8 arbor from Loretone. So that is a off-the-shelf kind of product right there. All of the metalwork, the tray, everything you see here, all of the wiring and stuff is done by me. I did all this. And I love this machine. This is great. I love having so much space. And so you can have a little comparison. We'll use this Thunder Egg here. These are big wheels. These are big wheels, and there is a bunch of space between them, which allows me to work on larger things, which is what I want to do. Downside, water, and it is cold. The other kind of downside are the belts. Now, you can see up here, kind of the water delivery system, it comes in, we get water on the backs of these wheels, it spins forward, comes down into the tray and drains out. Pretty much you have 2 kind of main wheels. You can run these silicon carbide belts, which are very affordable, but they do wear out quite quickly. And then there's diamond belts, just like this one right here. Now, the diamond belts are very, very expensive. So I started to make my own, and I love it. Like, this is my 3000 belt, and it's holding up fantastic. You can kind of see, like, the belt is in perfect condition, and I could not be happier with it. But I have to make more. I have to make more of these. So, although I love it, because of all of the space to work on something, especially compared to like what a cab machine has, like your standard 6-wheel. This is a dream to work something big. You can hold something very large in here and polish it up if need be. I'm also a little biased since I kind of designed how this is all set up. So I do think this is great minus that water. This is my final machine that I have out here for buffing, polishing, grinding, those types of things. And I wouldn't say it is done yet. Yes, it works. It's a good machine. There's a couple of things though that I really need to remedy with it. The first off, this is the Highland Park wet belt sander, and it is great over here. It does have a buffing wheel over here, which is less good. It spins way too fast. This thing here is turning at 1800 RPM, and even when you pulley down, this buffing wheel over here is nowhere near as good as my carpet wheel. Well, I did make this thing. This is my little drip tray here, and this goes on just like that. Well, I guess, wait, it goes on the inside. It goes on like that, and this helps so when you're working a rock and water is coming down on your belts, hit the rock, hit your hand, and it'll drip back down into this tray. So it's a very nice addition to have these this thing that I bent up, this little aluminum guard. Similar to the Arbor, we have these belts here, except these ones are bigger. These are, what are they? They're 39s, something like that. Anyways, you can get them silicon carbide, which is cheap, diamond, which is not cheap, and it's a nice machine because of how quickly it loads the belt. So you can just shove this guy on here like that. That, put your hood down, and we're good to go. I like how quickly you can change the belts out on it. I like that we have, like the Arbor, we have a ton of space to work on things. I do want a flat plate in here for flat grinding rocks. That will be a very nice addition once I add that kind of modification to it. I think what it comes down to is you need to think about what you want to do in the lapidary world. What do you want to get out of this as a hobby, and buy the machines that are appropriate for that kind of niche within this niche of working with rocks, you know, because there's no cab machine, no 6-wheel cab machine in the world that's going to polish this, right? You're going to be hitting the wheels that are adjacent. And that brings up the other thing. One of the reasons I want to do the flat plating on the HP is the edges of things, right? Because over here, we can polish something flat, but it never comes out flat. It's like a partial flat. So right here, now I want you to look at and pay attention to the edges of this rock. You can see how that light kind of shifts right there, how it bends a little bit. This is a mostly flat rock. And if we turn it like this, and you look at that next to my glove, maybe you can see that we dip down, we dip a little bit, okay? This is not dead nuts flat. The middle is flat, but as we get to the perimeter around the rock, it starts to have some rounding, because I did this one over here, which is very different than this one. This one I did on the Richardsons, and it is super flat. As we roll our light, you get very little shifting of that, okay? So I much prefer a super flat rock when it's intended to be super flat and not just kind of like flat in the middle, but then you get that little doming as you work on a round wheel. Well, Cliff, I hope this answers your question. I hope you found this to be valuable. For me, my mileage on this, as much as I love the high tech, it's probably the one that gets used the least. The Richardson's gets used the most because I can use it in the winter and in the summer. And the Arbor and the wet belt sander, they're kind of summer wet tools for me. So yeah, everybody else, if you like this project, if you want to support this project, I encourage you to do so, and you can do that by heading over to Patreon. There will be a link down below. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for coming by and hanging out with me in the shop and talking about lapidary machines.